Hello there, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of TA with MK. My name is MK, and in today's learning tutorial video, we're going to talk about a very simple topic but important topic as far as trading is concerned, and that topic is how to set alerts on these charts in Tradingview, as well as a few pointers and tips kind of on where I feel you should be setting these alerts. Now, if that sounds interesting, please remember to like and subscribe. And before we jump into the content, we're going to do a quick paid ad to myself, by myself, about myself. Roll it. Hello there, my fellow Cryptorians. Yeah, I just made up that word. Are you new to the market, maybe looking to make, some serious money? Maybe you didn't take advantage of the last bull market fully, and you'd like to have a little more success this go around? Well, let me help you. I've put together a playlist on how to trade crypto kind of from point A to point Z, and I'm adding to this playlist all the time. I'm going to leave a link in the description, but basically I just want to give a quick plug to let you guys know that playlist is super helpful for those of you that are newer to the market, or at least newer to the trading side of the market. I've put together videos in that playlist, things like how to set up a chart, how to find patterns and take profit areas, how to set alerts, coins with strong setups. I go over some of the popular exchanges like KuCoin, Coinbase Pro, and BitGet. I show you how to set a stop loss so you can preserve your capital. I show you how to find coins with news and so much more. So it's a completely free trade list. Again, the playlist will be in the description. If you find it at all useful, all that I ask is you consider liking and subscribing. Thank you. Okie dokie, so the chart that we're going to use for our example on how to set up alerts today is going to be the MANA or Decentraland chart. It's a chart that I already had open from a video that I made a couple days ago on how to nail your entry. I'll leave a link in the description for that video as well. Of course, it's part of my how to trade playlist, which that link's in the description, so you'll have two different ways to get to the same video. Any rate, in that video we talked about lower time frame ideas of how to enter a trade, some things that I look out for. So I've already got that chart open. We'll just use that same chart to talk about how to set alerts. And so I can also show you kind of what I would set alerts for as it pertains to trying to enter, that trade. And one thing I want to quickly say that probably should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways, is you need to understand just how important setting alerts is. As far as where I would rank it among, important tools to your trading tool bag, so to speak, it's probably up there within the top 2 or 3 as far as just how important it is. Now, granted, you need to learn the concepts of where you should be setting these alerts and what to do with these alerts once they've triggered, but there's not a successful trader that I know that doesn't enter, exit, take profits, all these things to do with their trades without having a plethora of alerts set. So just understand that if you don't learn anything else from this video, just understand that alerts should be your best friend, and every trader that I know at least uses them. That being said, I wanted to quickly show you something here on the Tradingview.com homepage. Now, I'm not sponsored or anything by Tradingview. I have no affiliation or association with them, other than I do like using their app, obviously, and their website to track charts, but mostly just want to give you a quick tip. So if you're brand new, they have these 3 different packages, and you can read down here what the differences are between them, but you have a trial version that you can use that will last 30 days. That's a no-brainer to start with that. Beyond that, the biggest differences between them that I have found is the difference between the amount of indicators you can use and the amount of alerts. Now, the indicators, to me, this cheapest package has plenty. I don't think you need more than 5 indicators on a chart. Plus, you can add one, take one away. That really is not a big deal to me. I actually only use about 5 indicators altogether myself. I know some traders use a lot more, but I've kind of found it to get too noisy if you have that many indicators. But it's really the alerts. Right here it says you have 20 active server-side alerts. When you're new to trading, you really should only be tracking 1, 2, 3 coins max at once, in my opinion, and so 20 alerts should be enough. So I just want to point that out, that don't feel like you need to jump into one of these higher packages where you're paying $60 a month for 400 alerts, when honestly you don't need 400 alerts. But anyway, just quickly wanted to give you that tip. Now we're back over on the MANA chart. We're not going to spend too much time in this video going over why my chart has these trend lines where they do, or the horizontal lines. There's other videos in my playlist on how to set up support and resistance, how to find patterns, how to find trend lines, and so forth. But in the video that I made the other day, we were talking about kind of this overhead area, this yellow line, which is currently resistance as it's above the current price action. And price has been rejected in the past. Here, all along in here, when it broke above it, this was, of course, the bull run explosion in price. You've had the rejections right here, most recently, That was the most recent rejection. So anyway, as far as looking for a breakout, as far as a overhead, horizontal line of resistance, that would be kind of our next key area, that we need to break. Now, also another topic for another video, but there's some people that are breakout traders, there's some people that are retest traders. In either case, if you were eyeing this overhead level, whether you were going to enter it on the break or the retest, we need to, get past it. So we'd want to know, right, if price action is breaking above this level of about 87 cents here on the mana chart. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our mouse over the actual horizontal line. We're going to right click, and then this very top one that says add alert on horizontal line, we're going to click that. Now, as we zoom in here, we can see some settings options here. One says condition for the mana chart. If you click this one that says crossing, it has a drop down box. I'm only going to go over the ones that matter to me. A lot of them are actually the same thing. You have crossing, up, and moving up. They essentially do the same thing. So I don't even know why they're there. There is a subtle difference between the two, but we're not going to go over it in the video. The biggest thing is you're deciding whether you want to know if price action is just crossing every time that it crosses it, or do you only care if it's crossing up, or let's say it's above it, you're in a trade and you want to know if it's crossing down, that's all you care about. You just have to decide which one of these are relevant. I, 99.9% of the time, just use this one that says crossing. I want to know if price action is crossing that line, so we're going to leave it on crossing. Then we're going to go down here to where it says trigger. You have a few options down here. You have only once per bar close, and once per bar minute. Let me quickly explain what each of these means. Now, only once is pretty straightforward, as it just means if I select this as the trigger option, that if price action in this case hits my horizontal line at around 87 cents, that one time it's going to send me an alert, and then it is done. Now, only once per bar and once per bar close are very similar, but they definitely have a difference, and let me explain. So a bar is just another word for a candlestick, so depending on what time frame you're on, so you're on the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the daily, right? Each of these red and green candles just represent price action during that time. So in this case, we're on the daily chart, so it means that each one of these candlesticks represents an entire day worth of price action. So that being said, this one that says once per bar, it's only ever going to send you an alert once per day in this case, but it's going to do it each time that crosses, but only once. So let's say today it crosses 87 cents here in a few hours. I would get an alert one time that said it crossed 87 cents. Let's say it happened 3 or 4 more times during the day. It won't send you any more alerts. Now let's say the following day candle opens up, which would be tomorrow in my case, and let's say price action crosses that line again. Well, it's going to send me one alert again. Only once though, and that will remain, to now until I decide to cancel or delete this particular alert, right? Once per bar close, on the other hand, means that it will send you the alert. If you read down here, it will trigger every time the condition is met at bar close. So in this case, the daily candle would have to close. If you look over here to the right, we still have 21 hours on this daily candle. Well, let's say here in 2 hours, price action did cross above 87 cents. It wouldn't send me the alert until the 21 hours were up and the actual candle closed. And this will also stay on as long as you want it to. So let's just say you were tracking over like a 2 or 3 day period. You're more of a high time frame investor or trader, and you're looking for mana to not only cross 87 cents in this case, but you're looking for it to remain above it for say 3 days. Maybe that's your criteria to accumulate or enter the trade. Well, for 3 days straight, if it stays above that price, each time the daily candle closes, you're going to get an alert. And last but not least, we've got once per minute. This is one I try to kind of stay away from myself, as it can get a little bit annoying, but also pretty obvious what it does. It tells you the alert will trigger every time the condition is met, but not more than 1 time per minute. I suppose this could be useful if you're someone that maybe doesn't always hear your phone right away. If you're one of those people where, your loved ones text you 8 times before you notice the text, maybe this would apply to you, where basically every single minute that this remains above my horizontal line. So if it crossed 87 cents and I had that set, once a minute, as long as it was remaining above, at or above that 87 cent level, or wherever my horizontal line is exactly, as we can see, it's 0.8655, then it will send me that alert. All right, now moving on. Now the next thing down here is the alert name. So assuming you've got your condition picked and whichever trigger you want, for my case, let's just go ahead and just pick once per bar. And I'll explain here in a second some tips as far as what I use based on time frames, just kind of personally to how I trade. But we're gonna go ahead and click once per bar. We're gonna name the alert. In this case, you might just put mana breaking above resistance, just whatever you personally want. This one's more of a personal preference, of course. And you can also give it a message like go all in. Of course, you should never go all in. But anyway, put whatever you want there, and then you can come down here on the right, and you can click Create. What it's going to do from there is if you look over here on the line, you're going to see that it put a little clock. Now, ignore the fact that the clock doesn't look like it's exactly on your line. In this case, this little alert kind of looks like it's actually closer to the orange line, but the point is, you can come back up here, right-click on the line that you set an alert for, and you can see that one's set, and how would you know that? Because it says Edit Horizontal Line. Go to this other one that doesn't have an alert set. If I right-click there, my option is Add Alert on Horizontal Line. So you can kind of see the difference there. Now, the next thing we're going to do is something we should have done actually before we went ahead and created the alert, but that's okay. We can come in here and edit it. We're going to right-click and hit Edit Horizontal Line Alert. And up here on the top, we're going to click where it says Notifications. Now, this is where you can specify where you want it to notify you. Now, me personally, I'm not entirely sure why this reset, because this is not how I normally have it. I don't really like getting the emails, but some people do. So I'm going to go ahead and click where it says send email, or unclick, I should say. You can get a pop-up. I like to be notified on the app. I actually use the, oh, I just realized I'm logged into a different Tradingview account than normal. That's why. But anyways, I like to be notified on the app, so I click that. That way my phone, which I always have on me, pops up and tells me right in the app that, hey, mana in this case crossed 87 cents. You could do a email. You can make it make sound here on the computer. Maybe your computer's in the same room as you and you're taking a nap. All of a sudden your computer makes a sound. So this is where you specify basically where and how you want to be notified. So you click that and then hit save. The next thing I want to briefly and quickly explain is basically kind of some of the other areas that you can set alerts, or at least areas I also recommend that you do. Now let's just say you're tracking a pattern. In this case, we had this falling kind of a wedge, and maybe you were tracking where the breakout took place. You can right click on a trend line and do the exact same thing that we just did. You can click add alert on trend line, go ahead and pick whether you know which condition you want. In my case, I like crossing. Trigger, maybe you only want to be notified once when it breaks out. Again, maybe you want to be notified one of these other ways. Name the alert just like we did before, and go ahead and create it. And that's going to create an alert on that trend line as well. See, we got a nice little white clock looking thing now. Let's just say you wanted to set something on a moving average. Now I will leave a link in the description, and again there's links to my trading playlist in the description. I have a video that goes over the moving averages, kind of how they work, so we're not going to talk about that in this video, but that's something that I personally trade on, or at least it's something that adds confluences to many of my trading ideas, is price action being above or below major trading major moving averages. In this case, I have the yellow and the blue. One is my 200 simple moving average, and the blue one is actually 200 exponential. At any rate, you can click on one of these moving averages, or right click I should say, and you can click add alert on that as well. And you can come up here and pick in this drop down box which one you're choosing. In this case, I have the 21. I have these hidden right now, so you're not seeing them. But let's just say you had multiple moving averages on your chart. I could specify specifically it's the 200, which in my case is this yellow one that I want to be notified of. Same thing as far as this stuff down here. Do I want only once? Do I want once per bar? And so forth. I could name the alert something like Mana Crossing Daily 200 SMA. I typically just do that. You don't really need to put a message as well. It's a little redundant. And I can click create. And again, now we're going to have an alert set on our moving average. Now, if at any point you're not entirely sure if you have an alert set, or you can't see the little clock thing, because it doesn't always put that on certain things you set alerts on, you can go up here to the top right where it has the picture of that little clock or alert, or whatever the heck that thing is. Go ahead and click it, and it will show you a list here of all the different alerts you have. In this case, during this video, I've set 3, and lo and behold, there's 3 here. I have the Mana Crossing the Daily 200. If I put my mouse over the one below that, it says the Mana Crossing that 1-day trend line. And then, of course, that first one that we went over of Mana Crossing, that yellow 87 or 86.5 cent line. This area can also be useful if you need to delete one of your, active alerts or pause it temporarily. One thing that I have found, especially when I was newer to trading and I was using the one that only gave me, the Pro account, I believe it was, that only gives you 20 alerts or 25 or whatever it is, that often I would forget about alerts I had on certain charts, and I'd be going to set an alert and it would tell me that I was out of alerts. Well, you can come in here and see what you have alerts on. Maybe you'll see something, you're like, oh, I haven't even been tracking that coin for, a month, and you'll see there's 4 alerts that are still active on it. You can go over here and click remove, And then do you really want to remove it? You can click yes, and then it'll just free up some of, you know, your limited alerts. Alrighty, and then just to finish up today's video, we're gonna quickly give you some examples, or a example, I guess, of how I use the alerts on different time frames to basically make trades. And this is just something that I personally do, but maybe it'll help you kind of as you develop your own alert strategy. But there is a difference on what kind of alerts I set up based on time frames. Now, most of my trading ideas are based on daily ideas as far as, you know, major breakouts, but then I enter the trades on lower time frame, you know, patterns and such. Example, so you have this large falling wedge that we kind of spoke about a little bit ago, and, you know, you'd be tracking the breakout of this. So of course, on this trend line, which we'll edit, I would have it set up for crossing, but I like to use on the daily time frame the once per bar. Basically, you know, anytime during a day, if that would cross above that price, I get an alert. I only get one alert, that's all I want. I can then kind of just check it, see how price action's doing, see if volume's coming in, things like that I pay attention to. But ultimately, I'm not going to enter just because one daily, you know, candle spike crossed that line, but at least gets my attention, which is the whole point of an alert, right? But then at that point, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in to my favorite time frame to enter trades. Now, I use a lot of time frames, but just the 1 hour time frame is kind of typically what I'm watching. And if we zoom down here, we can see that after price action broke above that large daily trend line, that it kind of consolidated within this little falling wedge here on the 1 hour. Well, if you look, the time that it broke above that trend line with volume down here was actually on the 8th of January, but it didn't break back out of this falling wedge and retest it. So, you know, breakout entry idea, retest idea, right? It didn't do that till the 11th. So I would have had 3 different candle body or daily candles close. I'd have had 3 different alerts over the course of those 3 days telling me that, okay, MANA has remained above the, you know, trend line that it broke above, but my 1 hour ones, I set a different type of alert. What I typically do on these, in this case, let's say I was tracking the breakout of this little small falling wedge, I'll right click on that and I'll add an alert, but the alert that I use on these, it's still crossing because that's the one that I always use, but instead of using the once per bar, I use once per bar close. Part of my criteria of entering trades based on these 1 hour time frames is I want to see a series of candles. In my case, I like to see at least 2 or 3 hourly candles, you know, close above this level, in this case, or this trend line, right? So I'm going to click once per bar close on the hour time frame, name it whatever, and then click create. Now again, this is just how I personally navigate trades and how I use the alerts different from each other. But the next thing that I would do, and I'll just show you real quick by putting Alt-H or Alt-V, sorry, here on the keyboard or on the chart to give you a vertical line. Now my personal criteria is 2 candle body closures above, in this case, the hourly time frame. So you had this candle close above that trend line and this candle followed it. So at that point, I would scroll into the 5 minute. The reason I put that vertical line, just so that we can find where that vertical line was. Okay, so now we're zoomed in on the 5 minute chart, and this is actually where the breakout happened on the hourly. And this vertical line again is where that condition of 2 candle bodies closing was met. And as you can see, at that point, I would be looking to enter the trade based on a 5 minute time frame I did. You can see here there was a little bit of a falling wedge that happened on price action here on the 5 minute time frame. Now this is a different topic for another day or another video, which I'll put a video out for, but there's more than one way to enter a trade, and often you can DCA in it 2 or 3 different ideas. That way you're not all in at one price, or, you know, it potentially adds the validity of what you're tracking. In this case, I may set an alert for the breakout of this, I may set an alert for the retest, and I may set an alert for, you know, a breakout of the above, you know, local high, as you will. That would be this last high, or this high after the breakout of the hourly pattern, right? So the way that I could keep track of those 3 potential entries, or maybe you're a retest trader, so this is your favorite entry, the breakout might have been your favorite, or maybe it's once price action breaks this area, which is kind of your local high. But what I do on the 5 minute time frames is I actually click, in this case, this trend line above, I can hit add an alert. I do only once, and I can name MANA 5 minute breakout wedge, right? Create it. Well, maybe I want the retest. I could put a Alt-H horizontal line, you know, drag it up here where the retest would take place, right click, you know, crossing only once, add alert, MANA 5 minute wedge retest, right? So that's the alert that I'll get on my app. And then maybe I even put another Alt-H up here. Let's just say I was DCing in with small amounts at both of these entry ideas, but really the entry I really want is the break and flip of this local high here on the lower time frames. Again, right click, add alert, crossing only once, and I can put MANA 5-minute, I'll just put breakout, right? Breakout above previous high, and hit create. So as you can see, there's probably a million different ways you can use alerts to help you in trading. Let's just say you set up a stop loss, as you should. Maybe down here below the bottom of this wedge, I could put Alt H. Maybe I change the color of that to red to represent my stop loss that I put on the exchange. Let's say I was using KuCoin and I added a stop loss. Link in the description for that video. I could right click at the area that I put that stop loss, add an alert. Maybe I just click once and put mana hit stop loss sad face or something like that, and then hit create. And we're not going to talk about profit taking strategies in this video, but assuming you had a plan in place and you had levels, as you should, of where you're taking profits, mine are based on the higher time frames, but you could put Alt H at each one of those levels, put those maybe as green for money, and same color as money, and go ahead and hit add alert and put for example, let's say this was your target one, you might put mana T1 hit happy face and click create. And one last kind of tip as we finish up today's video on a short topic that I turned, of course, naturally into a long topic, being who I am, that is Mr. MK, likes to hear his own voice, I guess, is that you can also set alerts on the indicators, something that I often do. So something like the RSI, the Relative Strength Index, you can come down here, double click. Let's just say you were tracking some trend line that you had drawn here, waiting for a breakout on this momentum indicator, just like all the other indicators or the other alerts we went over in the video. You could right click on that trend line, add an alert. Say you just want to know when it crosses it, or once per bar in this case would be good. You could put something like mana RSI, in this case 5-minute breakout, and create. Thank you guys. As always, I appreciate you stopping in for another video. If you have any further questions on this topic or any topic for that matter, feel free to leave me a comment, as well as see the link in the description for my Telegram group if you'd like to join that. Come in there, and ask questions there. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. On your way out, if you could do me a huge favor and remember to like and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one. It's